former lawmakers in the state. Also at the plenary, a motion to empower the governor to appoint 10 special advisors to facilitate the business of governance and efficient service delivery was moved by the majority leader Toluige and seconded by Oluwayomi Ayorinde from Idosi Constituency 2, which was adopted by the House. From Ekiti State House of Assembly, Ayodele Ogunsakin, NTA News.
In another development, the Ekiti State House of Assembly has confirmed all the 21 commissioner nominees sent by the state governor Biodun Oyebanji. The confirmation followed the successful completion of the screening exercise by the legislature. Again, Ayodele Ogunsakin reports.
It was a working visit to the House of Assembly as part of what is tagged Whistle Stop Visit, a collaborative agenda of all the legislative houses in the Southwest. The two visiting speakers were allowed to address the plenary following a motion moved by the member representing Ekiti West Constituency 2, Johnson Bode Adeoye, which was seconded by member representing Oye Constituency 2, Idowu Odebunmi. The Speaker, Adeoye Aribasoye, stressed the need to ensure stronger legislature in the Southwest through sustainable, fruitful, and rewarding working relationship. Aribasoye, who noted that the legislature is faced with complex and demanding challenges, said the heads of the Houses of Assembly in the geopolitical zone must come out with measures to navigate to identify the challenges for parliaments to succeed.
We'll be glad. What is important is for us to keep this relationship going and have our open communication, our line of communication to be open, and for us to foster this unity for the development, particularly of our dear region, for us to continue to progress. I believe that at the end of it all, our people will be happy for it. Proud of the achievements of
the Speaker, Oyo State House of Assembly, Adebo Ogundoyin, and his Osun State counterpart, Adewale Egbedun, described the visit as a means of strengthening the relationship among member states, share notes, and bring the Southwest states together for a purpose of accelerated development. They emphasized the need for the passage of quality bills into laws that will touch the lives of the constituents positively. From Ekiti State House of Assembly, Ayodele Ogunsakin, NTA News.
Adherence to proper legislative practice in focus at both state and local government levels in Jigawa State. This and more news after this time. You're watching NTA Parliament News. The Abia State House of Assembly has debated on the bill for a law to convert the Abia State Polytechnic Aba to become a full-fledged university. The bill formed part of efforts towards strengthening the education sector through establishment of more credible institutions of learning. Assembly correspondent Chika Okori has details.
The sponsor of the bill for a law to convert Abia State Polytechnics Aba to University of Aba and Speaker of the House, Emmanuel Emerowa, noted that the two government-owned tertiary institutions, namely Michael Okpara Federal University of Agriculture, Umotike, and Abia State University, Uturu, are no longer meeting the educational needs of the people. He also decried the turn of events at the polytechnics as its student strength dropped from 25,000 to less than 5,000.
The number of students in Abia Polytechnic is diminishing. The institution will attract more students, which will raise the school's IGR and will go a long way to offset the inherited debts as well as help to run the institution. By changing the status of that institution to a full-blown university, it will come back to life and be self-subsistent.
Deliberating on the bill, which was later committed to the Committee of the Whole, other lawmakers said the proposed interdisciplinary university will help to create more job opportunities and increase the internally generated revenue of the state.
Aba is peculiar, based on the principle of entrepreneurial ingenuity of the residents, and Aba as a city that has a renowned name not only in Africa but all over the world. Let this university be factored in such a way that it will also have required infrastructure.
With the government of Exoti, we know Aba University will flourish and make it a citadel of education. Thank you.
That the bill, if well passed, will offer desired courses, also offer job opportunities.
It's also critical to consider potential challenges that may arise from the conversion process. These include ensuring a smooth transition for existing students and staff of the Polytechnic.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it.
When this bill skies through third reading and subsequently receives executive assent, the number of government-owned universities in Abia State will rise to 3. From the Abia State House of Assembly, Chika Ukuri, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Gombe State House of Assembly has formed the leadership of the 24 standing committees for the effective discharge of its legislative responsibilities. Abbas Meikano reports that the House also deliberated on the alarming rate of cases of phone snatching and robbery in the state capital.
Towards enhancing smooth and effective legislative business, the Selection and Inter-Parliamentary Committee was constituted shortly after the inauguration of the 7th Assembly last month to set the ball rolling. After several meetings and consultations, the committee, which comprised of all the principal officers of the House, with Speaker Lugireo as chairman, decided on the leadership of all 24 standing committees of the House.
Has worked tirelessly to come up with this very important list that will enhance the effective and efficient legislative service delivery in this honorable House.
The committees are Rules and Business, Public Account, House Services, Budget and Appropriation, Judiciary and Justice, Land and Survey, Women Affairs, Social Welfare and Special Duties, Works and Housing, as well as Urban Development. Other committees include Information and Culture, Security, Energy and Mineral Resources, Ethics and Privileges, Agriculture and Animal Husbandry, as well as Rural Development, Commerce and Industry, Youth and Sport, Health and Human Services, Education, Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Finance and Economic Development Committees also inaugurated.
I am here to make little contributions on the matter raised by my honorable colleague, Honorable Mustafa, concerning the internal threat of security.
Also during the plenary, members deliberated on the alarming rate of theft, robbery and youth restiveness, especially within the state capital, following a motion to that effect presented by Mustafa Hassan, representing Gombe South in the State Assembly.
At Abuja, concerning what? Of Gombe LG. A man was attacked by a gang of youth. They snatched his phone and in the process struck him with cutlass on his head. He later died in a hospital.
To address that, the lawmakers resolved to draw the attention of the Gombe state government to engage security stakeholders and mandated the House Committee on Security to liaise with the Ministry of Internal Security towards addressing the rampant cases of robbery and theft in the state capital and beyond. The House adjourned sitting to 25th of this month. In Gombe, Abbas Mekano, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Speaker of the Jigawa State House of Assembly, Haruna Aliu Dangiati, says the Assembly is set to ensure proper application of due legislative process at both state and local government levels. This was the Speaker's response on the recommendation by the ad hoc committee set up to investigate the alleged suspension of a councillor representing Bella's ward of Enkwashi local government area of the state. Ibrahim Sani has details.
The ad hoc committee was constituted by the Speaker of the Jigawa State Assembly, Haruna Aliu Dangatin, on 6 July 2023 to investigate the alleged suspension of a councillor in Enkwashi local government area of Jigawa State, Junaid S. Gabas, who was suspended by the 7th Assembly. Presenting its report before the House, Chairman of the ad hoc committee, Sani Salazabran, says to ensure justice and fair play, relevant parties in the matter were invited to testify before the committee on the circumstances surrounding the suspension of the councillor.
The committee, in its bid to ensure proper and timely execution of its assignment, had its first meeting on the same day. The committee studied the letter containing the allegation and decided to invite the relevant person and institution identified in the letter with the suspended councillor.
To this end, based on its finding, the committee offered 2 recommendations to the Jigawa State Assembly, requesting the House to consider the suspension of the councillor Junaid S. Gabas by the 7th Assembly as null and void. The committee also recommended that the councillor be reinstated immediately and allowed to enjoy full benefits as provided by law.
The Honorable Councillor Enkwashi local government in person of Junaid is now fully back to sit as a councillor of Enkwashi and you will enjoy all the necessary privileges and rights. Thank you.
In another development, an ad hoc committee has been constituted to review the House Standard Rule 2017 to meet the global legislative best practices. Member representing Krika Samma Aliu Ahmad Aliu is the chairman of the ad hoc committee. The committee has members representing Gumel, Roni, Taura, Miga, Berniwa, Gwiwa, Goram, and Megateri as members. Clerk of the Jigawa State Assembly is the secretary of the committee. In Dutse, Ibrahim Sani, NTA News.
And that's the much we can take at this time. Do remember to follow this news and other NTA Parliament programs on the social media platforms on your screen. On behalf of the production crew, I am Vivian Itekbefo. Many thanks for watching.
On the news, work in harmony with the executive to deliver quality dividends of democracy. Secretary to the Government of the Federation tells visiting lawmakers.
Cooperating with the executive does not mean you have become a rubber-stamping institution. No.
Solution to perennial flood dominates legislative discourse at Senate.
Those against saying the ayes have it.
Plus, young legislators build capacity for quality legislative duties.
Always remember that you're here to represent somebody.
A warm welcome to NTA Parliamentary News. I am Reina Obasi. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, has in a separate meeting played host to the Gombe Governor, Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya, and the speakers of state assemblies from the North Central Zone, who came to congratulate him on his appointment and to chart a new roadmap in the areas of collaboration between the federal and state governments. The Secretary of the Federation was expressive on the need for a harmonious working relationship between the executive and legislative arms of government for national development, but not to undermine the principles of separation of power, the rule of law, as well as checks and balances that promote democratic practices.
Cooperating with the executive does not mean you have become a rubber-stamping institution. No. We have to cooperate so that collectively we choke up achievements, spread prosperity, and ensure that critical infrastructure is provided for the benefit of our people, the people that we represent.
The leading role by the SGF towards the success of President Tinubu in the 2023 presidential election was acknowledged by both Governor Yahaya as well as the speakers from North Central Zone. In separate remarks, also they expressed the confidence in his capacity to pilot affairs of the present administration to deliver on good governance. And now to legislative matters. For most communities, the rainy season signifies good tidings. The fresh farm produce are things to smile about. But predictions by government agencies of 2023 rainfall surpassing that of 2022 has put many on alert as they recall the devastation of last year's flood. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the issue takes center stage at the last plenary.
The matter was raised jointly by Senator Gbenga Daniel and Senator Umar Sadiq Suleiman, setting the tone for contributions from other lawmakers who narrated the havoc caused by rains less than 3 months into the rainy season.
Downpours have resulted in destructions and deaths. As residents of Lagos Island and mainland in Lagos were displaced, business owners and residents were displaced also in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Reported death in Enugu due to this surge. A 10-year-old was swept away by flood in Delta.
Cost of dredging is very high, but the destruction to lives and properties, there is a trade-off. You dredge, okay, so as to save the lives of the people.
It will be necessary and important. Instead of at each time, we now keep asking, what do we do after harms have been done? That is post-mortem.
Senate wants agencies to do more on prevention and mitigation of imminent disaster.
Our behavior all along in this country towards the issue of flooding is like being penny wise and pound foolish. Will allow flooding to occur and then rush to the scene with a lot of money for palliatives.
Several provisions were made in the 2023 budget. When our committees are constituted, the relevant committees will now oversight to make sure that the funds that were released are, utilized for the purpose of dealing with these flooding issues.
Relevant ministries, departments, and agencies to release funds as provided for in the 2023 budget for dredging of block canals and water bodies, amongst others. Those who are in support as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Another area of concern raised by Senator Ekwenyo Asukwo is the poor state of the Calabar-Oban-Ekang Road in Cross River State, linking the southern part of Nigeria to neighboring Cameroon. Senate urges authorities concerned to review the ongoing contract for the rehabilitation of the road.
Cetraco Nigeria Limited, which was awarded the contract for the rehabilitation of the Calabar-Oban-Ekang Road long before now, has not been mobilized to site despite the deplorable state of the road, even with the provision of 250 million naira in the 2023 Appropriation Act as an ongoing project.
Meanwhile, Senate shall, in line with the provisions of its standing rules, henceforth hold sittings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, as announced by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. This followed a point of order raised by Senator Iyenaya Abaribe.
Following the outbreak of COVID-19, safety protocols were introduced, and so Senate had to comply by reducing the number of sitting days per week from 3 to 2.
The Senate Minority Caucus has held its first meeting after the emergence of principal officers as it strategizes for robust participation in the 10th Senate. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Cross River State House of Assembly is calling on the federal and state ministries of environment as well as other relevant government agencies to address the menace of gully erection in Calabar municipality. Uduak Etim reports that the resolution came on the heels of deliberation on a matter of urgent public interest raised by member representing Calabar municipality, Stanley Nsemo.
The gully erosion site at Nasarawa community, 8 miles in Calabar municipality, is quite threatening and has generated worries due to cases of residential building collapse and its encroachment to the road. Speaker, Cross River State House of Assembly, Elvet Eyambem, during an oversight called for speedy intervention to avoid more harm to the environment and residents of the area.
What is going on there needs immediate intervention. We must take that to one of the clarion calls in the state.
Member representing Calabar municipality, Stanley Nsemo, who raised the motion which was deliberated alongside other members, called on the relevant agencies to address the menace as soon as possible.
Should intervene and address the erosion at the site as soon as possible. At 8 miles and its surrounding environment. Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad if this House can push for that.
The Nigerian Erosion and Watershed Management Project, known as NEWMAP, is a program designed by the World Bank to intervene and to handle matters like erosion, the problem we have in Cross River. So I stand here, Mr. Speaker, most respectfully, with utmost humility, to call on the government of Cross River to provide its own counterpart funding to ensure that NEWMAP carries out its.
In Calabar, Uduak Etem, NTA News.
Yaga Africa, under its Not Too Young to Run movement, is building youth parliamentarians' capacity for better legislative and leadership engagement. The young legislators, comprised of members from State Assembly and the House of Representatives. Timothy Yusuf reports.
To invite
Yaga Africa, the Not Too Young to Run movement and the Young Parliamentarians Forum of the National Assembly are the organizers of this two-day conference for young federal and state legislators across Nigeria, tagged the Convergence 5.0. The Convergence 5.0 is a platform for the young legislators to learn from experienced legislators, connect with peers, and develop their legislative capacity for the days ahead.
In 2023, for the first time since our transition to democracy in 1999, we can proudly say that in the House of Representatives, we have 2 lawmakers who are between 25 and 29 years old, the youngest ever. That is progress, but not enough, because in the House of Reps, we still have just 14 under 35 years old who won the elections.
Always remember that you're here to represent somebody, and their responsibility
lies on your head. So whatever decision you take, make sure you take a good one.
This meeting is fifth in the series of training for young legislators cutting across both state and federal. Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
We have a guest in the studio to throw more light on that report you just watched, training of young legislators. Let's welcome the coordinator of Yaga Africa Center for Legislative Engagements, Dr. Sam Oguche. You're welcome on the news.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. From that background report, my question is, what is your assessment of youth inclusivity in the current constituted states and national assembly?
Yes, looking at the report, the issue of youth inclusivity still continues to bother us because it is too low. Although we have recorded some level of improvement compared to the 2019 general election, yet youth participation still remains low in a democracy like Nigeria. Still remains low. Because if you look at it, at the National Assembly, let's take the House of Reps, for example. The youth between the ages of 25 and 35, how many of them are at the National Assembly? 14. That is like just a fraction. Then those between the ages of, let's say, 36 to 45, I mean, just 80-something. So if you look at it, youth participation is still low. Youth representation is still very low. And at state assemblies, it's even worse. Because if you compare the over 990-something state constituencies, only 92 seats for the youth. So it's abysmally low and it calls for action.
What action do you need?
Yes. One, we still need a lot of capacity building for the youth, even intra-party politics, a level playing ground for the youth, because most of the time, these youths are available and willing, but the cost of election already puts them off. Political party, nomination forms, you know how it is. So it's like one arm of the battle has been won, which is a product of the Not Too Young to Run movement that led to the amendment of the Constitution. And by that amendment, the age eligibility requirement has now been relaxed. But if you have met that requirement, what of the financial implications where the cost of nomination forms, is too high? So it's like too poor to run. So it calls for intra-party, considerations for the youth, and then you build the capacity. Even those who are at the assembly now, who have won their elections, you need their capacity to be built. And that is what Yaga Africa and other partners have started doing. They have been doing it. The Convergence 5.0 just ended, and that was an avenue for young elected leaders to come together to gather opinion, learn from the experiences of seasoned legislators, seasoned scholars, and administrators. At the end of the day, it was a fruitful exercise. That is an angle. Then again, you also have a call on CSOs to be awake, even the media, to be able to promote this youth, sensitization of the public, even moral reorientation of the masses. These are things that can cumulatively, increase youth participation and eventual representation in government.
The two-day training has come and gone. Yeah. So which area of capacity building did the organization concentrated on?
Yes, Yaga Africa concentrated on issues of, committee and oversight, issue of legislative instruments, constituency relations. How can you, because beyond election, what next? You have won election, you are now in office, what next? Because there are three basic functions of the legislature, which is lawmaking, oversight, and representation. So the Convergence focus on each arm, each angle of this legislative function. Now that you have won election, how do you relate with your constituents? What are the limits of constitutional powers? What of committee system? How effective? What are your expectations as you are going into parliament? Because some of them will say, oh, I want to go into juicy committees. So, you know, these are the things they were taking through. And I tell you, it was a fruitful event.
All right. Right now, we have a youth at NAS and 36 states of the Federation.
Yes.
What is your role in bridging the lawmakers to achieve the desired result?
Yes, Young Africa has a program that gives support to the National Assembly, even state legislature. So these youth, these young ones that are now in the various legislative houses, have opportunity of being supported mainly through capacity building, even development of legislative agenda for them, so that they cannot have a roadmap that will direct their performance at the various legislative houses. So it's not that even before the elections, there was a program ready to run conference. What that did was to, you know, position these candidates then to be able to embark on issue-based campaign, to be able to know how to even finance their campaign, how to be able to convince the voters. And after that conference, we had the election, many of them won, and now having won election, it was time for us to now say, okay, you have won. How do you perform? Because we want to go get the best out of them. If they are now at their respective legislative houses, what Young Africa now embarks on is to see that they come out successful. They deliver on their mandate. Because the legislature is the closest arm of government to the people. So by the time you build their capacity on how to move motions, on how to present bills, on how to represent their people, the people will now see that, look, these people who are young and have been elected are actually delivering on their mandate. And that will open more doors for others. At the end of the day, we will have incremental youth representation in government. So
what's your advice for youth legislators?
My advice is this. Many of them are direct beneficiaries of the Not Too Young to Run Act. Perform your legislative functions as provided by the Constitution. Represent your people because they have entrusted you with their mandate. Put the interests of the people first. These things they were told at the conference. So that if you put the interests of the people first in your legislative function, you will be able to deliver and the people will see it. What is of paramount consideration is not what you consider important, but what your people consider important. You may be thinking of, okay, let me go and install solar powered lights for the people. But what the people want is health center.
Something else.
Something else. So you have to know. That's why we say constituency relations. Don't be far from your constituents. That's our advice to them. That they should be in touch with the grassroots to know the needs of the people. And when that is done, they will be able to adequately and effectively represent the people.
Thank you, Dr. Sam Oguche, for coming on the news. That's the much we can take for one tough time.
Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Up ahead, we will now pause for break, and when we return, screening of commissioner nominees in Jigawa and Ekiti State Assembly will come your way. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In case you are just joining us on the news, we are on NTA Parliamentary News coming to you from Abuja, the nation's capital. Jigawa State Assembly has commenced the screening of first batch of 8 commissioner nominees for the appointment and confirmation as commissioner in the government of Jigawa State. Governor Omar Namadi presented the list of 16 commissioner nominees to the Jigawa State Assembly for their approval as requested by the law. Ibrahim Sani has more.
Executive request seeking for the screening, appointment and confirmation of the commissioner nominees by Governor Umar Namadi is in compliance with Section 192 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those screened are former Commissioner of Finance Babangida Umar, Professor Hannatu Sabo Umar, Dr. Muhammad Abdullahi Kenwa, Aminu Kanta and Ahmad Garba MK. Also screened are former Commissioner for Water Resources Jigawa State Ibrahim Garba Hanningiwa, former Commissioner of Education Lawal Yunus Danzomo and Dr. Isa Yusuf Chamo. The nominees were asked on how to put in their best towards the development of Jigawa State, particularly in the areas of agricultural development, improved living condition of the citizenry, health, economy, education and job creation, among other key development areas.
Most of the reforms that were carried out in the financial sector of Jigawa State, I would like to call your attention to extend these reforms in order to block leakages that are still going on at the local government level.
Given their assurances, the commissioner nominees pledged their readiness to use their wealth of experience in addition to working with experts to deliver and make Jigawa State a better society. While some were screened thoroughly, other nominees, particularly the former commissioners, were asked to take a bow and go in view of their track record of service in Jigawa State. In Dutse, Ibrahim Sani, NTA News.
The Ekiti State House of Assembly has commenced screening of the commissioner nominees sent by the state governor for confirmation. The House also announced the members of the various standing committees of the House. Ayodeji Ogunshake reports.
In accordance with the outstanding order, the commissioner nominees were admitted into the chamber one after the other. The nominees include former commissioners in the immediate past administration. The legislators took the nominees through areas that could make the programs and policies of the state government come to reality through their experiences and area of specialization. The nominees showed their worth and stressed their readiness for the job and contribute their quotas to the development of the state in any capacity if confirmed as commissioners. At the plenary, tax clearance certificates of the nominees were obtained to confirm their eligibility as taxpayers in line with the State Board of Internal Revenue policy, while they were equally asked to effect their asset declaration with the Code of Conduct Bureau as part of the criteria to determine their confirmation.
Issues we always are very much approachable and they collaborated with us.
It's about service. When you work in government, it's about service to the people, and making sure that everyone gets carried out.
And the training I'm giving to my children, to my students, is to be able to be useful to the society.
I believe that young people have ideas that we should listen to and utilize for the good of this state. Some of the complex issues raised, I commend you for that. I commend your composure. I commend your confidence.
One after the other, the commissioner nominees took the traditional bow, while the speaker directed the appropriate committee to work on the nominees before their confirmation next week. The speaker, Adeoye Aribasoye, announced the appointment of members of the various 28 standing committees of the House. From the State House of Assembly, Ayodeji Ogunshake, NTA News.
Still on state legislative matters, Kaduna State House of Assembly has confirmed the nomination of Samuel Arowa as Administrator of Kaduna Capital Territory Authority. The affirmation followed his screening during plenary session. Ahmad Zango reports.
The nominee is an immediate past member of the State Executive Council under former Governor El-Rufai administration. During the screening, lawmakers engaged the nominee on a wide range of issues, his achievements while as a Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, former Press Secretary to the State Governor, and his plans for Kaduna Capital Territory administration. if confirmed by the House. Relevant questions on how the nominee will carry out his assignment.
How many local government make up the Kaduna Capital Territory, and how do you intend to distribute development?
Any other initiatives or innovations that will complement the statutory responsibility of the ministry that is saddled with the whole responsibility, I will do.
The House unanimously approved the nomination, and Speaker Yusuf Liman Dairo directed the Clerk of the Assembly to communicate the resolution of the legislatures to the executive arm of government, Amazongo and T News.
And finally, on our bulletin, the leadership tussle in the Abia State House of Assembly appears to have deepened as members of the People's Democratic Party left the hallowed chamber in disagreement over the sharing of the principal officers of the House. Chika Okore reports.
The last two sittings have recorded members of the PDP staging a walkout, protesting what they describe as unlawful, where they were denied the position of majority leader despite having 11 out of the 24-member House constituted by 4 political parties. Against the usual practice of allowing people seated before lawmakers enter the hallowed chamber for legislative business, in this recent plenary, only key functionaries and cameras were granted access, while reporters and other legislative aides were barred. This made the PDP faction to speak to amateur video men, stressing that they are going to approach the court over the leadership tussle.
He repeated the names of those people which we are kicking against. So they still repeated it. I know some of our members also advised that those things be expunged, but they insisted, and we are not going to be part of the illegality. If they want to take majority leader, let them take both minority leaders and everything. We are going to resolve that issue any moment from now, because that particular section is unambiguous, and we want the court. Before the end of the day, we will
file an action.
Yes, file an action.
Although it looks like there is no end in sight to these crises, but it is expected at this time that the alleged gladiators should sheathe their sword to give way for a more peaceful assembly where meaningful law can be made to chart the course of development in Abia State. From the Abia State House of Assembly, Chika Okore, NTA News.
That's the much we can take on our news this evening. Thanks for being part of it. You can continue to watch other programs on the channel scrolling on your screen. I am Rina Obase from the entire production crew. We say have a lovely evening.